Amidst the endless expanse of the sea, sailors have borne witness to some of the most mysterious and otherworldly sightings known to man. From legendary sea monsters lurking beneath the waves to ghostly apparitions haunting the decks of ships, their tales of the unexplained will send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning what truly lies beyond the horizon. The Mary Celeste, unraveling the mystery of the ghost ship. For over a century, the ghostly image of Mary Celeste has lingered in the imaginations of sailors and landlubbers alike. Its tale is one of mystery, tragedy, and the unexplained. Despite extensive investigations, no one has been able to fully solve the enigma of what happened to the ship and its crew. The eerie silence that surrounds the abandoned vessel only adds to its mystique, leaving many to wonder, what truly happened on the Mary Celeste? The Mary Celeste was a merchant ship built in 1861 in Nova Scotia, Canada. Originally named the Amazon, it was a relatively small vessel, measuring just 103 feet in length and weighing 280 tons. It was used primarily for transporting goods across the Atlantic Ocean, and it changed ownership several times over the years. Benjamin Briggs, a seasoned captain with years of experience, commanded the Mary Celeste in November 1872. The ship was loaded with barrels of raw alcohol and headed for Genoa, Italy from New York City. Briggs was accompanied by his wife and daughter, as well as a crew of 8, which he had personally handpicked for the voyage. On December 5, 1872, the British brigantine Dei Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste floating adrift in the Atlantic Ocean about 600 miles east of the Azores. The ship was in good condition, but it was completely deserted. The lifeboat, as well as the ship's papers and logbook, were missing. The Dei Gratia crew boarded the Mary Celeste and found that everything was in order, except for the fact that the ship had been abandoned. There was no sign of struggle, and the ship's cargo was intact. Theories about what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste abound. Some believe that they were attacked by pirates or mutineers, while others think that they may have been taken by a giant squid or another sea monster. There have also been suggestions that the crew may have abandoned the ship due to a gas leak from the barrels of raw alcohol, or that they may have been swept overboard during a storm. Despite numerous investigations and inquiries, the fate of the crew of the Mary Celeste remains a mystery to this day. However, the story of the ghost ship has captured the public imagination and inspired countless works of literature, film, and music. The Legend of the Flying Dutchman, a haunting tale of the high seas. As the crew of a ship sails through the treacherous waters of the Cape of Good Hope, a thick fog descends upon them, obscuring the view of their horizon. The captain, a seasoned seaman, orders his crew to keep a sharp lookout, for he knows all too well the dangers that lurk in these waters. Suddenly, a faint light appears in the distance, flickering like a ghostly flame. The captain recognizes it as the Flying Dutchman, the cursed ship that has been fated to sail the seas for centuries. As the ship draws closer, the captain and his crew can make out the ghostly figures of sailors on deck, their eyes glowing in an otherworldly light. The Flying Dutchman is said to be a ghost ship that is doomed to sail the seas forever. According to the legend, the ship was captained by a man named Vanderdecken, who was attempting to round the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. The captain and crew were said to be defiant and blasphemous, and they refused to turn back even when faced with terrible weather conditions. As the ship battled the stormy seas, Vanderdecken swore an oath that he would round the Cape of Good Hope even if it meant sailing until doomsday. The ship was then struck by a massive wave, and as it began to sink, Vanderdecken was said to have shouted out a curse. "I'll sail this ship to the end of the world, even if it takes forever." According to the legend, the Flying Dutchman now sails the seas forever, never able to make port or rest. The ship is said to be shrouded in a ghostly mist, and those who have seen it report that it appears to be crewed by spectral figures. It is said that the ship appears to other vessels as a warning of impending danger, and that those who see it will be cursed with bad luck for the rest of their lives. The legend of the Flying Dutchman has been retold in many forms over the years, from seafaring tales to literature, film, and even opera. In some versions of the story, it's said that the curse can be broken if someone is willing to accompany the captain on his endless voyage, while in others, the ship is only able to make port once every 7 years. While there is no evidence to suggest that the Flying Dutchman ever existed as a real ship, the legend has become a beloved part of maritime lore and has inspired countless works of art and literature over the centuries. Many sailors have claimed to have seen the Flying Dutchman through heavy rains, brutal winds, and dense fog. Some have reported seeing the ship heading towards the rocks before disappearing, while others have seen it sailing along choppy waves. Huge gelatinous creature discovered in underwater canyon off Western Australia. During a research expedition in the seas off the Western Australian coast in 2020, a group of scientists from the Western Australian Museum discovered an amazing find. They came across a lengthy, gelatinous creature hung in a massive spiral while exploring the 600-meter deep underwater canyon. According to Nerita Wilson, one of the scientists involved in the expedition, the creature was so huge that it couldn't be missed and looked like a rope on the horizon. The exact species of the creature is not specified in the statement, but it is possible that this was a type of jellyfish or siphonophore. Siphonophores are colonial organisms made up of individual animals called zooids, and some species can grow to be very large, with some reaching lengths of up to 50 meters. They're related to jellyfish, but unlike jellyfish, siphonophores are actually made up of smaller organisms that work together to function as a single, larger organism. After estimating the submersible's track, the spiral-shaped siphonophore appears to be a potential contender for the longest specimen ever found. Its estimated length of approximately 45 meters suggests that it might even surpass the blue whale and become the longest animal ever to be measured. The discovery of this huge creature is particularly significant because the deep ocean is still largely unexplored, and many species have yet to be discovered. The fact that this creature was found in an underwater canyon is also interesting, as these canyons are known to be hotspots of biodiversity and are often home to unique and unusual species. The discovery of this creature highlights the importance of further exploration and study of the deep ocean and its inhabitants. The HMS Daedalus Sea Serpent sighting, myth and legend. The story of the HMS Daedalus Sea Serpent sighting is one of the most famous accounts of a sea monster encounter in history. The incident happened on August 6, 1848, as the HMS Daedalus was traveling through the waters off the coast of Africa between the Cape of Good Hope and the island of St. Helena. The ship's captain, Peter McCuhay, and his crew were on the lookout for whales when they spotted a large snake-like creature swimming in the water ahead of them. According to reports, the creature was nearly 100 feet long and had a head resembling that of a snake. It was said to be black and shiny, with a maw full of large jagged teeth, sufficiently capacious to admit a tall man standing upright between them. The sailors were said to be in shock at the sight of the monster, and many of them were convinced that it was a sea serpent. News of the encounter was reported in the British newspaper The Times 2 months later, on October 9, 1848. The article titled "The Great Sea Serpent" described the ship's brush with the monster in vivid detail and caused a sensation among readers. The sighting was met with skepticism by some, but others believed that it was evidence of the existence of sea monsters or other unknown creatures lurking in the deep. Over the years, numerous theories have been put forward to explain what the sailors might have seen on that day in 1848. Some suggest that it could have been a large eel or a group of dolphins swimming in a line. Others argue that the sighting was a hoax or a case of mistaken identity. Despite these theories, the story of the HMS Daedalus Sea Serpent sighting has become a legend in the annals of maritime lore and has fueled countless discussions and debates about the mysteries of the deep sea. The story has also been the subject of scientific investigation. In the 1970s, a team of marine biologists from the University of California, Santa Cruz, examined the accounts of the sighting and concluded that the creature was likely a basking shark. Basking sharks are large, slow-moving sharks that can grow up to 40 feet in length and are often mistaken for sea serpents. However, some experts have criticized this theory, pointing out that basking sharks do not have maws sufficiently capacious to admit of a tall man standing upright between them, as described in the original report. Regardless of what the sailors may have seen, the story of the HMS Daedalus Sea Serpent sighting remains a fascinating mystery and a source of fascination for many people today. A Salvadorian fisherman survives 438 days lost at sea. Jose Salvador Alvarenga is a Salvadorian fisherman who achieved international attention in 2014 when he washed ashore on the Marshall Islands after being lost at sea for 438 days. Alvarenga and his young crewmate had left Mexico in November 2012 on a 25-foot fiberglass boat, but were blown off course by a storm and eventually became lost in the Pacific Ocean. During their time at sea, using just his bare hands, Alvarenga caught fish, jellyfish, turtles, and seabirds. The lost pair occasionally collected food scraps and floating trash made of plastic. They collected drinking water from rainfall when possible, but more frequently were forced to drink turtle blood or their own urine. Alvarenga's survival has been attributed to his strong will and acceptance of his circumstances. Experts have noted that this mindset is key in survival situations, as despair can lead to death very quickly. Upon his return, Alvarenga received medical treatment for dehydration and joint pain at the Marshall Islands and has since been the subject of numerous interviews and media coverage. Journalist Jonathan Franklin, the author of 438 Days, shared Alvarenga's story in a recent episode of How To. The book provides a detailed account of Alvarenga's harrowing journey and his struggle for survival against all odds. In addition to media coverage, Alvarenga has been the subject of scientific study. In a CBC News article, the author of The Biology of Human Survival talks about the plausibility of 13 months stranded at sea, noting that while it's rare, survival is possible. In another article, scientists who studied Alvarenga's case suggest that his survival may have been aided by his previously being a fisherman, which gave him knowledge of how to catch fish and other sea creatures. Overall, Jose Salvador Alvarenga's story of survival at sea for 438 days is an incredible tale of resilience and determination in the face of unimaginable circumstances. His experience has provided insight into the human capacity for survival and the importance of mindset and knowledge in extreme situations. Sailors' tales of the eerie and electrifying St. Elmo's fire. The sky is dark and ominous as the ship cut through the rough waves of the open sea. The wind howls and lightning bolts light up the sky. The sailors on board huddle together, fear etched on their faces. Suddenly, a strange glow appears on top of the ship's mast. It dances and flickers in the air, illuminating the faces of the frightened sailors. They've heard stories of this phenomenon before, but none of them have ever witnessed it firsthand. It's St. Elmo's fire, a mysterious and eerie occurrence that has plagued sailors for centuries. While frightening and ominous, St. Elmo's fire is a natural phenomenon that has fascinated and mystified sailors for centuries. This dazzling display of electrical discharge occurs during thunderstorms and is characterized by a bright blue or violet glow that emanates from the tips of masts, spars, and other pointed objects on a ship. The glow is caused by the ionization of air molecules, which creates a plasma discharge that can last for several minutes. Sailors have reported seeing St. Elmo's fire since ancient times. The phenomenon is named after St. Erasmus of Formia, the patron saint of sailors, who is also known as St. Elmo. Sailors in the Middle Ages believed that the glowing lights were a sign of the saint's protection and that they would guide them safely through stormy seas. While St. Elmo's fire may have been seen as a positive omen in the past, it can be a frightening sight for sailors today. The electrical discharge can create a buzzing or crackling sound that can be heard throughout the ship. The glow can also be so bright that it can temporarily blind sailors, making it difficult for them to see and navigate the ship during a storm. Despite the dangers, many sailors have reported witnessing St. Elmo's fire and have shared their stories with others. In one such account, a sailor on the USS Harry S. Truman reported seeing St. Elmo's fire during a storm in the Mediterranean Sea. He described the experience as otherworldly, saying that it felt like the ship was surrounded by an electrical field. The sailor also reported feeling a sense of calm during the storm, which he attributed to the presence of St. Elmo's fire. In another account, a sailor on a yacht in the Pacific Ocean described seeing St. Elmo's fire during a particularly severe storm. He reported feeling a sense of awe at the sight, saying that it was one of the most beautiful things he had ever seen. However, he also noted that the glow was so bright that he had to shield his eyes and that the electrical discharge was so intense that it caused some damage to the ship's electronic equipment. While St. Elmo's fire is a fascinating phenomenon to witness, sailors need to be aware of the potential dangers. The electrical discharge can be a sign of a dangerous storm, and sailors should take all necessary precautions to ensure their safety. Despite the risks, however, sailors continue to be awed and mystified by St. Elmo's fire and the sense of wonder and protection it has inspired for centuries. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to check out our other videos available on our channel.